What's good, everybody? I'm Blitz5, and in today's video, I want to talk about the latest PUBG map, Vikendi. And as PUBG players, which I'm going to assume you guys are if you're listening to this video, we've now all had the opportunity to play this map, whether you're on PC or Xbox. So with that, in this video, I wanted to talk about the development of this map, also share some of my opinions and go over everything that makes this map so great and also so different from the other three maps. And as a community, you know, it might be subjective still, or you can debate what is your favorite map to play if you like the bigger maps like Erangel, or if you like the smallest map in the game, Sanhok, like myself. But I think as a community, we can all come together and agree that this is definitely the most detailed and most realistic map in PUBG. So to highlight that, I'm going to recommend these two videos here that PUBG put out on their official YouTube channel. And these are kind of going into the development of the map. They did a Q&A and also behind the scenes, the making of Vikendi. So if you want to check out that video in entirety, or you just want more PUBG content to consume, again, I'm going to post those videos in the description box below. And I'm just going to be highlighting some of the facts that I thought were the most interesting in this video. And to start off, I think a good place to start here is actually with the naming of the map, which we all know is Vikendi. So this actually comes from the Czech word for weekend, which means Vikend. And it seems like everything along with this map, or has to do with this map, is kind of having a European vibe, kind of centrally located and also kind of in Western Europe. That seems to be what the towns look like. I've never been in Europe, but obviously I've seen pictures. So a lot of the city centers in this map seem like they have that sort of European vibe. So that's very cool. If you guys remember, the original name for Vikendi, kind of the leaked name, was Dihor Otak. And when people were kind of deciphering what that name meant, if you go into Google Translate and put in Otak, it comes up as a Slovenian word, which means island. So Vikendi is an island. And then I don't know if anyone actually found out what Dihor means, but when you Google Dihor, it comes up as like this European kind of ocelot or a polecat, and this is located in that region. So I don't know how that kind of went with the island, but there you go. It definitely has a European vibe, and that's where they were getting a lot of influence from these words. At least that's where it seems like, and they did admit that's exactly where they got the name Vikendi from. Then moving on from there, this is really cool. They just answered a lot of questions about the map, and some of this stuff was kind of just like imaginary, I guess, but they did try to keep it as realistic as possible. Obviously, you know, in the Q&A, they went over some really advanced questions here, like, is there extra bullet drop, or is the speed of the bullet slower in the cold weather? Because I guess if it's really that cold, it would affect the trajectory of the bullets. And while obviously they're trying to keep PUBG as realistic as possible, that would totally change the gameplay on this map. And I think they're trying to keep it consistent. So they're going realistic up to a point, at least to keep the game integrity and consistent across all of the maps. So they didn't go that far, but they did go pretty far, where they even had kind of an idea of the temperature of the map, because there is some frozen water in the area. So they said or guessed that the temperature of the map is anywhere from 10 to 20 degrees below zero. But again, I think that's just a guess that they're, kind of putting out there. And then they moved on. A lot of people had questions about the snow in the game and kind of the cold weather and some environmental things that we might be seeing in the game now that we have dynamic weather. So one of the big questions here, and I've seen this online, is there going to be a snowstorm or an avalanche? I actually hadn't seen the avalanche question online at all, but I know a lot of people are hoping for some kind of snowstorm. And while I thought they were going to say, yes, this is definitely coming into the game, they were really concerned that the snowstorm would really put a damper on the performance in the game and visibility. And while I thought it would be cool to have a lack of visibility, and I thought that's kind of what the fog did as well, they seemed that like they didn't want to remove visibility in the game to that kind of extreme point where you can't see in front of you. They don't want players to get frustrated, and that they weren't really considering doing something like that, especially because of how much performance that would take to have so much snow. So I guess we might not be seeing that, but I hope that someday, when PUBG gets more optimized, we can see something like that. They didn't totally eliminate that. And that's sort of what they did with the avalanche. They kind of laughed about the avalanche and thought it would be a great idea, but then they're like, could you imagine players just getting eliminated randomly? They would be so upset. It's already so difficult to play PUBG in Battle Royale that getting randomly eliminated by an avalanche would definitely suck, but it would be an awesome gameplay feature. And moving on from that, this is just a personal idea that I have that I would love to see implemented in Vikendi or maybe a future map, is that we have like the train station in Vikendi, or there's the train that you can see when you're playing in the map. And I think having an item, or not an item, but something in the map where, say, 10 minutes into the game, the train went across the map, would be so cool if there was 2 train stations or something like that, and you knew every game, at 15-minute mark, the train was going to go from A to B. And I think that would be a really cool way to kind of traverse the map and also get from one area to the other. And it would also be a really cool like in-game event. And then you'd also know that if you're on the train tracks, then you were going to die, and it wouldn't be something random like an avalanche. I think that would just be so awesome. Could probably talk about it forever, but I'll move on from that. Then they also addressed the level 3 helmet being in the game, which this answer totally made sense to me, but I've been getting a lot of feedback on my stream and in my YouTube videos that people are kind of disappointed that it's back because it ruined sniping in the game and like a one-shot headshot kill. But to me, I was answering people back by saying the level 3 helmet is so iconic to the game. I mean, when you think of PUBG, I think of 3 things, right? You think of the level 3 helmet, you think of the frying pan, and I mean, I guess those are the first 2 things we think of, and the logo, right? And then Battle Royale. So, or maybe the guy wearing the white shirt and the tie. So those are kind of like the first 5 things that you think of when you play the game. And to me, the first 2 things I think of are helmet and frying pan. So I think they wanted to bring it back into the game because when it's only a care package item, people aren't getting it as much. And that's exactly what they said during this response. They said that they didn't want players to feel like they could never get this. They noticed that only really skilled players really go for the care packages in their data and end up getting them successfully. So they wanted every player to have the chance to get it. And they feel like their brand really identifies with the level 3 helmet, and that when people can't get it, it kind of loses its symbolism in the game. So really that's where they're coming from. And I know some hardcore players get frustrated about that, but I think it's great that they put it back into the game just personally. And as long as these items are kind of rare and not everywhere, not everyone's going to have one still, and I think it's really great for the most part. So that's basically the highlights of the Q&A, the development video that I thought were really great. The weather, the meaning of Vikendi, snowstorm dynamic events, and the loot that's on the game. And they also did say that like they want to kind of keep it very SMG and shotgun based, and then if you find an AR, DMR, sniper, that you're at an advantage. They kind of want it to be that way. And they threw out some weird numbers here that I thought were interesting. They said that they wanted like you to have good loot in this game 3 out of 5 games. And in Erangel, they wanted to be 1 of 5 games you have really good loot. And then on Sanhok, it's like almost 4 or 5 out of 5. So I thought it was interesting that they kind of had this idea in their head of how many times you would have good loot out of 5. They didn't have any like actual statistical evidence of that. I think they were just saying it like anecdotally off the top of their head, and that's what they're aiming for. But I thought that was an interesting example that they used. And then moving on from that, the making of PUBG, which this is an older video and didn't have too much information in it. They're just showing kind of what happened with all the details and how they made the game with and how the map is designed, how there's so many more trees, there's so many more cities, how they've been working on more effects like the light coming through the trees, which I think you guys have all seen. And it definitely shows when you play the game. The map seems so much more realistic. When you're walking through the forest, it seems like an area that's actually real. When like on Erangel, some of the trees in the forest don't even look real. It just seems like a very designed map, like a computer game. It really does seem like a computer game. When in this game, it seems like you're landing to what could be a real location in a European area where there's like cities and towns, and the detail here is just so much more dense that I definitely give them a lot of credit, and I feel like this probably took them a lot of time to design. So you can check that out and see all the things behind there. And something that I thought was really funny was that they mentioned, I forget which video it was in, that they had a team event where they went and traveled to a European city to get some influence, or they traveled around Europe to get influence from what it looks like there, what the actual buildings look like, design, so they could take pictures and get ready to make this map, and also, have a kind of a vacation or a fun time as a team, which is definitely things that a lot of corporations do, kind of like these team building events. And when they were in Europe, they actually saw a dino park, and that was their influence for that part in the map. So you might be walking around like I did in Vikendi and be like, the dino park is so funny, but why did they think to include this in the game? It's so unrealistic. And that actually is a real place that exists somewhere in Europe where they were. I don't know if it was abandoned or still working or still, up and running. But that place exists, and that's where they got their, idea from. So I thought that was really, really cool. And I definitely think it's fun that PUBG is putting these kind of videos out. Obviously, it takes them a lot of work to do this. So you could be debating, why are they spending time, marketing efforts on making these videos when they could just be putting all of their effort into working on the game. But this is obviously a different department doing this, marketing and videographers at PUBG. And I think they're doing a great job interviewing them. And I love that they interview these guys in their native language, and then they have the subtitles. And I love that, it's not a traditional, like say, US or European developer, that these guys are located in South Korea. It's cool to see, you know, other companies, like a smaller company, doing well and in their own country. I don't know if I worded that correctly. I don't mean that to come off weird. I just think it's great, you know, kind of supporting a smaller business as opposed to the normal giant developers that we normally support, like Activision and EA games. So I think that's really cool. Props to PUBG. This is a fantastic map. Can't wait to play this a little bit more on the live servers. Hope you guys enjoyed this as well. Let me know what you guys think of Vikendi. As I mentioned, I think we can all agree that this is definitely the best map from a design standpoint, but let me know if this is actually your favorite or you're still sticking with Sanhok like me. Still my favorite map. Hot take. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. And as always, thank you all for watching. I'm Blitz5 and peace out.